Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Now redone by Disney, or current Lucasfilm, twisted together. Legends. So today, oh boy, we got book 2 and 3 in the new Jedi Order 19-book epic for the fight against the Yusong Vong. And today for you I have the Dark Tide Duology written by Micheal Stackpole. Yes, the Micheal Stackpole, the one who did the X-Wing Rogue Squadron series, who's also super good friends with Timothy Zahn, and is one of my favorite authors that I've read so far in the expanded universe. So, there's that. And of course, because of the fact that it's Micheal Stackpole, who's a big part of this book, well, of course, Corran Horn, because he was the main character of the X-Wing Rogue Squadron series. Of course, we still have everyone else: Luke, Mara, Leia, Han's in it for like a second, Jason, Jaina. Jaina has become kind of what I thought was really cool with Jaina is it's kind of like a passing on of the torch. I'll talk about that more in a bit with her. But this duology, book 2 and 3, the Dark Tide duology, were excellent. They were excellent reads. Again, the politics. I mean, the last guy did a good job too, R.A. Salvatore, but Micheal Stackpole knows how to write dialogue, knows how to write characters, knows how to write politics and all that stuff. He's really, really good at it. He's good at everything he does. In fact, he's so good with characters, he's so good with writing, that when it comes to the action parts of books of his that I've read so far, it makes me kind of bored in comparison. Not because it's bad, but in comparison to the rest of it, I just don't enjoy it as much. But of course, because Micheal Stackpole is so amazing, at some point I'm going to have to read his other books because he's amazing. But first off, we have Dark Tide 1, Onslaught. So, of course, it's been a month since the events of New Jedi Order, Book 1, Vector Prime. We find out that Nominor and the whole faction there, they were going rogue. Or not necessarily rogue, but they were trying to, like, usurp some sort of power. They were trying to go ahead of schedule, do things against what the rest of the organizations of the Yusong Vong kind of wanted them to do. But they got, foiled. If you read the last book, of course, why would you be watching this review if you hadn't? But yeah, so it's been a month, and they're back on Coruscant, and of course, Borsk Fela, those terrible freaking council members don't believe them, or they believe them, but they don't think they should put their military into it or fight against it. They don't want the Jedi doing anything because they think the Jedi are bad because they're retarded. And it's just a whole debacle, which ultimately leads, and then also what happens is we find out that Gavin Darklighter is now the leader of the new Rogue Squadron, and Jaina Solo gets to become a new member of the X-Wing Rogue Squadron series. So, which I really loved of Micheal Stackpole, since he created that original series, he kind of passes on the torch in a way, because Corran's like a Jedi now, and he's doing that stuff. But we have Jaina being, part of this new squadron. Wedge Antilles does show up, and Taiko Soko shows up for a second too. But it all culminates on Dantooine, where Mara and Anakin are there because Mara's trying to recover from, she is sick. She's technically dying from this disease that the Yusong Vong have infected her with, but she's, just been fighting it off because she's so tough and whatever. But everyone's stories kind of converge on Dantooine, which is in KOTOR, which has been in many books, the planet Dantooine. And there's a big final confrontation there. The second book, I'm not going to get too much into spoilers. If you're reading the first book, you're going to read the second book. In fact, if you're reading the entire series, but these are a duology. These go, back to back. So you're going to be, if you're buying the first one, you're going to buy this one. But the second one, mainly the big final confrontation all revolves around the planet Ithor with those friggin' aliens with a big neck thing, and then they got the heads like that. Just look up into Thorian on Google if you don't know. But they make a stand there, and the leader of this particular part of this particular part of the Yusong Vong and these particular books that they focus on, I'll get more to them in spoilers, shows up. Korn and him fight. The planet ultimately does not get a happy ending, and we are left on kind of a dour note. But yeah, I don't want to get into spoilers because you should be reading this. Plus, I read them both back to back, so remembering exactly the central plot points of both were a little bit difficult because they kind of bleed into one another. But overall, that's the gist of the two books. These books were excellent. These are another great entry into the New Jedi Order series. Now, there are 19 books. I don't imagine all of them are going to be bangers, but so far they have been excellent. 3 books in, they've been excellent. Hopefully they can keep this up for at least a while. I understand all the books are going to be golden because it's 19 books. But Micheal Stackpole, phenomenal writer. He did an excellent contribution to this series. And guess what's up next on our amazing journey through the expanding universe? We got another duology, books 4 and 5 of New Jedi Order, but it's written by one of my favorite authors of the expanding universe. You want to guess who it is? James Luceno. But that will be for next time. I'm going to get into spoilers now, guys. If you don't want spoilers for Dark Tide, Onslaught, and Ruin duology, time for you to get out. Alright. So, we learned from the very beginning of these books that it's been 6 years since the peace treaty. So it's been 6 years exactly since the Hand of Thrawn duology. And sorry, I was wrong in my non-spoiler. It's been 2 months since Vector Prime. And as I already mentioned, the New Republic Council really sucks. And of course, Han's having extreme grief over Chewie. We only get to see him twice in both books. But he's not doing well. He's drinking a lot. He's just not being a good father. He's distant. He's seemingly going off to do whatever he's doing. We don't know. Maybe we'll find out soon. But he's just not being a good person. He can't deal with Chewie's death. He's had other people die in the past, but he's never had someone this close to him die, and he's just having a hard time dealing with it. But that's pretty much all that's going on with him in these 2 books. And this is just something that was said in the book that I'm paraphrasing. I don't know if it's word for word, but I enjoyed, and I thought it was significant enough to write it down. Anakin always wanted to be a hero, to redeem his name. Now drowns in a tragedy. This was also brought up if you watched my review on Junior Jedi Knights, which focused on Anakin. That was something that was always a big thing with him growing up. It still is. But it was always about, my mother named me Anakin. Why? It's the name of Darth Vader. And for her and for him, she thought of it as a way to kind of redeem what her father had done. That by Anakin having that name, he could make a difference with that name. Be a great hero with that name. I mean, so was Anakin Skywalker. But he lived long enough to see himself become the villain. If we're going to use a Dark Knight reference. But Anakin really, he just has a hard time. He knows intellectually it's not his fault that Chewie's dead. But still, that was basically his uncle. Luke and Chewie were his uncles. Chewie was probably even closer than Luke, because Luke had a lot to do. He had to be a Jedi master. He had to be the leader of all the Jedi, since he was the first true Jedi before the rest of them showed up. You know, he's married, he had stuff to do. He's a busy guy. You know, the person who was usually consistently there? That was Chewie. Now he's gone. Next. So, Corran's around, and we learned that, or maybe we knew this before, I don't remember hearing about this, though. Corran can't use telepathy. That's just like a force ability he was never able to master. And neither can his kids. He can do pretty much everything else in the force, but he can't lift things. He just has trouble doing it. Mar and Anakin have a discussion on Dantooine in the first book, which I really loved, because I never even really thought about it. Because you watch the prequels, you know, people are going like fighting, but at the same time, the Jedi of the prequels are fighting robots for the most part, right? Like, sometimes you'll have other people show up that they have to fight. Most of the time they're fighting robots. You don't really have to feel too bad about doing that to robots. But when you rely on your force powers, when you are violent and stuff, you know, against living beings, that's a different matter, which is also something that comes up with Jason. More with the killing living beings. But Anakin, he's a smart boy, but he's always relied upon his force abilities. And Mara tells him he needs to be able to do things on his own, to know the limits that he has before he uses the force. And it's just a good growing moment for him. And I love the discussion that him and his aunt had. And of course, as I mentioned in a non-spoiler, Jaina joins Rogue Squadron. See, and then Jason Solo, just in these 3 books alone, is so fascinating of a character. I love how he's kind of changing from how he was in the Young Jedi Knight series, and how his philosophy is just so interesting, and how he's trying to figure out his life. But he goes with Luke back to the planet from the first book, because they're trying to, you know, figure some things out. And he gets a vision that he can go defeat the people, the Yusong Vong that are down there currently doing stuff, and he'll win because he won in the vision. But when he goes there and fights, he loses. And he eventually gets saved by Luke and everything. But this one's one of my super important notes for future references. At least I felt like it would be. Because he says, I'm special. I'm a special person. I'm more responsible because I'm the son of Han and Leia. I'm the nephew to Luke Skywalker. I'm strong in the Force. I'm more special than everyone else. I should know what I need to do. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know if this was ever intended, but no, it was not intended, because originally it was supposed to be Anakin, who, I can't go into spoilers for later stuff, but I don't know. It's like I know the future, and it's just, I don't know, things like that. You have like those little things that he says. It's like, oh boy. So I thought that Corran had died, but he did not. He survived. They tried to trick you, though. But yeah, for a second I thought he legit died. I was like, no, Michael Stackpole wouldn't kill his favorite character. And Jason and Anakin have a talk at the end of the first book, which was a really nice talk. As I said, Michael Stackpole, with his writing and his dialogue for characters, is so good in these books. But now we move on to Dark Tide 2, Ruin. As I mentioned in the non-spoiler, Nominor went against orders. Yeah, that's why. Because we have a new villain in this. His name is Shadow Shy. And he's very upset with Nominor for what he was doing in the previous, in Vector Prime. I mentioned that the Vong are so different, and I find it so fascinating. Their culture is so weird, so different, so warped, so wrong, but yet it's so fascinating to learn about. Like, their whole philosophy on pain is crazy. Like, we're born into pain, we die in pain, we must embrace pain. And it's just, I don't know, I love that stuff. I loved Thrawn talking about art. Now I can use it to figure out a species. I loved these guys talking about their culture and how it all works. Of course, in this book, near the very beginning, the Jedi are arguing how to handle the Vong. Because, and I found myself getting mad at Luke, even though I'm pretty sure he's in the right. Because, I'm used to the prequels where they were slicing down droids left and right. But these aren't droids, these are living beings. And we have different philosophies on how that should be handled. Kip Duran and, a bunch of his other followers are like, nah, we gotta do exactly, basically, even though we don't know everything about the Clone Wars, like what they were doing. We gotta do that. Cornhorn, Luke, they're like, we're defenders, we're not, offensive attackers. We don't start fights. And then stuff in between. And then friggin' Jason is trying to figure out what he wants to be as a Jedi. But it was a fascinating discussion. I do love what Luke Skywalker says in this discussion, though, near the end, because he's like, you gotta be careful with this. Because while the Yusong Vong might be a terrible threat, what would be an even worse threat? 100 Darth Vaders. 100 of his students turned into the dark side. We basically returning to the old Republic timeline. And that is a serious thing. You gotta be careful with that. Anybody can turn to the dark side. Luke did, for a time. No one's safe from that. So. Oh yeah. We get to see Grand Admiral Pelion again. I love Pelion. He's one of my favorite characters in EU, and having him here, having him work with the New Republic in these books was awesome. We get a pairing with Corrin and Jason as they go on a mission prior to going to the big final one at Gargi, or however you say that planet's name. But I just love trying to put these two characters together and having them interact, really, and having Corrin be the leader, having Jason listening to him and stuff. I really enjoyed that. Luke and Mara and Anakin, they made up with Kui, who is Wedge's ex, if you remember, the character who was one of the persons that created the Death Star, or created parts of the plan for a Death Star, at the very least. So it was cool to see her again. It was cool to see the Jedi Academy trilogy getting some love. Oh yeah, I mentioned Shido Shai already, but I find him so fascinating. I think, no one can compare to Thrawn, but as far as villains go, he's a lot better than a lot of the ones we had during the Bantam era. He's a really good villain, and I really enjoyed just listening to him talk and discuss his beliefs and stuff. It was really fascinating. And my next note, pain is the only constant. That's the Vong's whole thing is pain. And pain is the only constant they see in life. And so it's a huge part of their culture. And then, right. So, and as I mentioned, the Imperial Remnant joins up with the New Republic to fight against the Yusong Vong at Ithor. Of course, they're at the planning stages at this particular part when I wrote this note, but they are being prepared. They are getting prepared for that final battle in these books. So between the two love interests, we have Luke and Mara and Corrin and Myrax. And if you have been a subscriber for a while and you watch my X-Wing Rogue Squadron reviews, you know that I love Corrin and Myrax, and they got to have a sweet, sweet, sweet moment in these books. And it was like back to back. We had Luke and Mara, and they were really sweet. They had a really sweet moment. And I have to tell you, I have such a weird relationship with Luke and Mara. Like, I don't know how I really felt about it. Like, I liked it, and then I loved it at the end of Hand of Thrawn, and then we got back, and I was like, it's cool. It wasn't until I got this moment where they were super cute with each other that I was like, oh yeah, I love them. And then right after that, they did Korn and Myrax, and my heart just went, stop, it's too cute. Wow, this was, I read this like right before I went to bed, and then finished it like the next day, the entire book. But how disturbing the scene was with Elegos' skeleton. Because Elegos, prior in the book, had went to go try to, be diplomacy with Yu Sung Vong. He's like, I'll tell you about us, you tell us about you. You tell me about you. And Korn finds him this thing that's supposed to have a message. And inside it's Elegos' skeleton, dead body. And then Shadow Shy speaks through that. It was just a really disturbing scene. And while Elegos might not be like a huge movie main character, or even an EU main character, he was in a fairly significant portion of the Hand of Thrawn duology. He's been around for these 3 books. And he was an interesting character. I liked him. He wasn't, my favorite or anything. But just the way he died, like, side character not, he didn't deserve that. That was insane. And we get to the bad parts. I mean, that was bad. But Ithor burns. It burns. The Yu Sung Vong lose, so they retreat. But Shadow Shy's second in command, essentially, I believe, uses the same, toxin that was used on that planet in the first book. Deriblian, that was Lando's place. There's another planet like that. But then the Imperial Remnant and the New Republic show up, and they blow up that ship. But then part of the ship falls down to the planet really quickly, and since it already had all this stuff on it, it made the entire planet burn. And Korn takes the blame. The Jedi need to be able to do their stuff, and they can't do that with the government telling them what they can and can't do. So Korn says the only way for us to be able to do stuff is if I take the blame and say it's all on me. And it just sucks, because Korn's awesome, and he's done so much. And now he has to be basically viewed as a villain, at least till later. But as of right now, he's going to be seen as a villain to many of the public. Many of the ignorant public will see him as a villain. But, yeah. That's all my notes for these books. For book 2 and 3 of the New Jedi Order series, Dark Tide by Micheal Stackpole. These were phenomenal books. I don't think they're the best of Micheal Stackpole's work. Obviously, his best work is his X-Wing Rogue Squadron series. But, as a continuation of the New Jedi Order series, and a continuation of his own books, I thought this was really, really good. Definitely a great addition to this series. And up next, I don't remember what the name of the book is titled at the moment, but we'll be getting to book 4 and 5 of New Jedi Order, written by James Luceno, one of my favorite authors of the EU. So I hope you'll join me in that, and I will see you next time.